rid herself of some disease. You know, it's if you look at it really rationally, it doesn't make sense. But if you look at it like a crazed serial killer psychopath with more money and power than the next 100,000 people, then it makes complete sense what happened and why we're being treated this way. I mean, we got arrested on, what was it? In 10 days, it'll be 2 years since we've been arrested, you know. And on that day, when we got arrested, they took us to the remand prison, right? The police actually wanted to keep us in prison until our trial date, which was, you know, still ongoing, right? So luckily the judge didn't agree with the police that we were that much of a danger. However, we were certainly a danger in terms of our speaking. So we were banned from using the internet, banned from having a mobile device, banned from leaving the house. And this was, of course, during lockdown. So that was incredibly difficult to bear, and we went into court. I think we've been into court now 9 times, like Ferris Bueller, you know, 9 times.
So this is what I'm sorry to interrupt, but this is like 2.5 years later or so. This where the initial offense. Oh, I thought it was something recent when you told me about this. No, it reminds me of the January 6th people that have been in jail for over 2 years already for the worst of the what, trespassing? You put somebody in jail for 2 years, and I mean, it's just in a crappy, real crappy situation as well. So you've got how long again until your hearing?
October the 10th, maybe. It could possibly be shorter than that. But around that time, that's the election time. So it's about 72 days till election. And so our fate will be decided 4 days before the election vote is finally cast. So
sounds like America again.
What a great way to keep us out of the running, eh? Because the last election cycle, I helped out Billy TK, who was my co-accused. And we made a pretty good run of it, better run than anybody else has ever done in terms of a freedom party. And since we tested the waters there, now there's about 8 other freedom parties that have come out of the woodwork who won't work with each other and won't combine forces. And in order to get into Parliament, they either need to have somebody elected, like in a local seat, you know, like if you're the Auckland Central candidate or something like that, or you get 5% of the party vote. Now, at the time that Billy TK and I were helping to campaign, he had a larger social media following than the Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern, all right? And we still only managed to net, like, 20,000 votes is like maybe 1%. You know, so yeah, it doesn't look good politically in New Zealand at the moment. And of course, Liz Gunn and her cameraman Jonathan Clark. I was just speaking to Jonathan on the phone earlier. He went into court with Liz today because they were assaulted by police and had his $15,000 camera smashed, and Liz Gunn nearly had her thumb ripped off. Because they were greeting somebody at the airport. All right. You know, this is, and now they're being charged with...
Vinny, let me interject something. For those of you listening that are not familiar with Vinny Eastwood, tell us a little bit about yourself. And we're talking about New Zealand. This is the place where they filmed Lord of the Rings. You know, it's supposed to be unicorns and peace and really wonderful scenery and climate. But I remember when, I don't know how many years, maybe 3 years ago, I forget what, but do you call your leader a prime minister or a president?
Prime Minister, yeah.
Prime Minister. And what was her name? And she said she's failed for the COVID stuff or something like that?
Well, she's got lots and lots of names. A lot of them aren't very flattering, but officially it's Ardern, Jacinda Ardern, like the Ardern criminal, you know.
So who's your? You probably have somebody just as bad as we have in the U.S., or probably not quite as bad. It's hard to imagine a worse president than we have.
America's just like bigger and better in every way. What can I say?
Yeah.
So at the moment we got
a messed up situation here too, and we got, essentially what it sounds like you're telling me is you're being politically prosecuted. Would you say that's accurate?
No, I would say we're being persecuted. But very similar words there. But
not politically persecuted on what grounds?
Well, first of all, who am I, and why would I have grounds to be politically persecuted? Number one, in terms of truth-telling, talk radio and videos online, from 2008 to about maybe 2019, there was one guy in New Zealand who did that, and that was me. And I gained about maybe...
I know, you were big. Listen, I was... just for the audience, I want to tell everybody, Vinny and I, this is not the first time we chatted, and I'm really grateful that you're on again tonight, Vinny. I really love hearing and following, the information, people like you that have been in this for a long time. You're not a newcomer to this. You've been busy, and I'm really sad to hear your information about being persecuted. It is so unfair, but this is the reality so many find ourselves in. And I'm sure, one of the things I want you to do is tell us how anybody can help you.
Well, there's a number of ways to help, and over at thevinnieeastwoodshow.com, you can donate. You can become a Patreon of my band as well. There's PayPal, KiwiBank, and Patreon options available. And of course, if people donate, they can click and get some special rewards, some help from me.
Could you back up for a second? Did you say you have a band as well? Are you playing in a rock band?
Yeah, Vinny and the
Vendettas. Are you the? I'm gonna guess you're the lead singer, but you're probably a guitar player as well.
No,
but what do you play in the band?
No, I'm just the bassist. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Of course, no. Of course, I'm the lead singer, bro. Like,
you darn New Zealander. Tricking me, scum Americans.
It's so much easier than you think.
I lived in Arizona, of course, and we would say things like, "Yeah, I ain't from around here, are you?" And that's a shotgun cocking. That's the sound of that. No, anyway. So, of course, you're the lead singer. Do you play guitar as well?
No, I really am not skilled in those regards.
Well, the best lead singers only do lead singing.
Yeah, and
can we find you on YouTube? I want to hear you.
Yeah, you can find Vinny and the Vendettas on YouTube. We've got our YouTube channel and stuff.
Slowly.
Vinny and the Vendettas. Like V for Vendetta, but Vinny.
The Vendettas. Yeah. Vinny and the Vendettas. You can't just go, Vinny the Vendettas. What?
Sorry, I'm from New Zealand. We speak very quickly.
You're also a very intelligent person, and you have neurons that actually connect. So you think fast. I'm a little slower, but that's okay. No. Did we? You were just sending me the link. Thank you for that. I'm going to check it out, my friend.
There we go. And we recently did a song called Jar Jar Jacinda, based upon Boney M's Rasputin. And did all the lyrics and stuff like that. Took maybe like 8 months on and off to write it. And I think
what kind of a style would you call what you do? Is it straight up rock, or does it fit into any more defined categories?
Well, let me just play some word association here. If you've heard of the Bloodhound Gang,
into trouble. Heard of what?
The Bloodhound Gang.
No, I have not heard of the Bloodhound Gang.
Have you heard of Pink Floyd?
Yes.
Okay. Have you heard
I would be surprised if anybody listening now has not heard of Pink Floyd.
All right. And Carlos Santana.
I've met him, by the way.
All right, and Cheech and Chong.
Not met them.
And
they were one of the funniest duos ever. I gotta say, especially the first two movies of theirs, Up in Smoke. I mean, that's ridiculous.
It was so good, right? And I memorized it. You know,
it was like nonstop. You know.
Yeah.
How do you do that?
Yeah, man. Am I driving okay? I think we're parked, man.
How fast are we going? I think we're stopped, man.
So good stuff. So there's a lot of really good music in there. Have you heard of Toots and the Maytals?
Say that again, slower.
Toots and the Maytals.
No, I don't think I've heard of them.
You got to get into some of that stuff, man.
What is it? Is it like R&B or something, or what is it?
It's reggae, you know.
Oh, see, that explains it. I'm not really a big fan of reggae.
Well, interesting side note: New Zealand has the second highest per capita appreciation for reggae music out of any country in the world, and the second highest per capita consumption of cannabis in the world, and. And I'll give you 5 points if you guess what the number one country that appreciates music and uses cannabis is.
Okay, is this a trick question or is it the obvious one?
It should be obvious.
I say it's America.
No, it's Jamaica, bro.
Oh, well, reggae, of course.
Yeah, I mean, that's where it came from.
Bob Marley, and I did like Bob Marley. When he first came out with that beat, that was really hypnotizing. With some good stuff.
Yeah. So yeah,
and and by the way, I just want to say, I don't want to sound like I'm dissing reggae. Lots of artists have integrated reggae. I just tend to like, Vinny, what I like is stuff that's more like Jimi Hendrix and Yes and Genesis and kind of more advanced.
Creedence.
No, Creedence is I forget his name, but that guy has a fantastic voice.
Yeah,
no doubt about it. But it's still just those basic 1-4-5 changes.
And have you heard of Tom Waits?
Oh, I know who he is. Stevie Ray Vaughan is another one who actually uses that kind of formula and makes it work though pretty well.
Yeah. So so if you combine all those together, you've got really pumping rhythms, great choruses, really intelligent lyrics, and a gravelly voice that can do lots of different kinds of pitches, essentially. So that's what Vinny and the Vendettas is really all about. It's very it draws from a lot of eclectic sources that all just sort of like combine in this primordial soup of just freaking awesomeness.
See, that's what I like. I like where you can. I think people that are really writing good music are broadening their horizon and utilizing Peter Gabriel's a great example of borrowing from so many different genres and really creating some seriously good music.
Yeah, and that's the thing about it is artists are damaged people. Really, they're all a bit off because of what's happened to them. And
are you saying artists are sometimes are not really having their feet on the ground and functioning well in life?
I would say all the time. It's just
without exception.
Some of them less so than others, and this is how you make art, basically. Have some kind of unresolved trauma that basically destroys your mind in some way, or your heart, or your soul, or whatever. And then in order to therapeutize your life, you create artworks from the things that you see in your head that other people can't see because the veil hasn't been removed from them yet. And that's how you live.
That's quite a word, Vinny, therapeutize. It's how we self-regulate, I understand totally what you're saying, because I was a guitar player playing in bands and all this stuff, and wrote lots of music, and even got a little bit of a success opening for some big acts and even got a little radio play. So I can totally relate to this. And I can totally relate to what you're saying where, like artists are they're just messed up. They don't know how to really operate in the real world. I hate to say that.
You know, it's just the thing. It's artists are the ones
You got a twerk in you that drives you to pursue those kind of higher sounds. I guess I don't know.
Well, it's I don't write my songs; they just come out while we're freestyling, sort of thing. So when we start jamming, within about 30 seconds, I'll have the rhythm, and then at the end of about maybe 4 minutes, we'll have the song. All right, so I can write 3 songs in about 12 minutes. And this is also true when I'm actually writing. Like if I've got somebody else's song, and I can just sit there and listen to the beat a little bit and then write down lyrics and ideas and things like that, and have a base for a number of songs within just a very, very short time frame. So words just come to me, and the music speaks to me, and it just tells me what to say, and I'm not really thinking or anything. I'm just sort of like channeling. So that's why we've got over 700 recordings, and out of that, we've got about 80 songs that the producer at Magic Sound Recording says are good enough to be on an album. About 80 songs that could be hits.
Do you have a good lead guitar player?
No, and in fact, at the moment, since
see, so you need me. I can see why we're talking now.
I need so much. I need an entire band. And that's the thing about what happened with lockdowns and everything, is that I lost my band out of it. You know, my guitarist was so lonely living where he was in Auckland. It was like an hour's drive from me. That he moved out of the city, and 5 hours drive down the line. So it's like, there's the band gone. You know, when are we ever going to get together to practice?
I played in rock bands for decades, and I have all kinds of ideas about them. One of them is that you need a balance in earth energy. Like you need earth, wind, fire, and water. And that's what the Beatles were. They had Ringo's water, John was air, George was fire, and Paul was earth. You need that kind of balance. And it is extraordinarily hard. The 2 things I value most in a band is, number 1, the singer, and the second one is the drummer. You gotta have somebody that can. How many drummers have you played with that screw up on time? They do a fill and they're a little behind or fast.
Well, I'm kind of strange in this way. My producer used to be the head of Ukraine's second biggest rock festival, so he'd be listening to about 1,000 demos a week, trying to figure out who's got the talent to come on. Sort of thing, and he's told me a number of things that I can do that he's never seen anybody do. And number 1 is when the bassist, the guitarist, and the drummer are off, Vinny Eastwood is still singing in tempo.
I know. I used to actually do that same thing with my guitar playing. If you got one guy that can hold it together, it makes it a lot easier for everybody else. And it could be anything from the drummer to the bass, but even the lead singer, even the playing lead guitar, you can actually direct it. Aretha Franklin was actually famous for being able to really hold the band on the heartbeat of the song.
Yeah. What do you call a soul singer with a yeast infection?
Yeah. Salsa. No, I'm blanking. I don't know.
Urethra Franklin.
Yeah, there you go. That was really good, Vinny. Thank you for that.
You're welcome. Now you can't unhear it. You can't unhear it.
What's that?
Now you can't unhear it. Sorry about that.
No, it's okay. I've got tons of jokes like that. You know, there's an old country song that goes, I once had Kate and Edith too, but I learned what they say is two. You can't have 2 girls at a time.
I was thinking about another joke I told some of my neighbours the other day. It was, you know why Slovakians are not allowed to travel around the EU?
No.
It keeps them in check. You'd have to know about Czechoslovakia and.
Well, that's
What happened there?
it's
Sorry. Some people will find that joke really funny if they're up on geography, but American audiences maybe not so much.
Isn't just Czechoslovakia landbound?
Well, there is no Czechoslovakia anymore. There's Slovakia and Czech.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because they separated their countries out, and that's why the Slovakians aren't allowed to travel around Europe, because it keeps them in check.
Right. Those crazy Eastern Europeans. There's an even older one that goes, Poland and a Polish person and Czechoslovakian went on a hiking trip, and they got eaten by bears, and the female ate the Polish guy, and so they asked, "Where's the Czech?" "Oh, the Czech's in the mail." The male bear. See,
yeah,
the male bear ate the Czechoslovakian. That's supposed to be funny.
Oh, right, yeah. That's good.
No worries. Hey, listen, do you
it's
want to
midnight
talk
where you
about
are.
anything serious? We actually have plenty of time, and I actually really do like joking around and talking about bands and jokes and things like that, and screwing up on my old jokes, but I still have some good ones in there.
Well, one can only
Oh yeah,
hope.
I got to retell my KeithAZ joke. So this is how it goes. I once had two girls at a time. Kate and Edith both were mine, but I learned what they say is true. You can't have Kate and Edith too. See, that's better. I totally screwed it up the first time. That's a very, very old, corny joke.
Speaking of which, Pilot Your Mind in my Twitch chat has said that modern music has been taken over by Freemason and satanic cults. I was just been thinking, did you hear about Laurel Canyon? The Doors, Janis Joplin.
Oh yes. Listen. I am so into that. It's ridiculous. So we can go way back. So I'm old enough. I think I'm older than you. I'm 64. And I remember the 60s. I actually saw the Beatles in San Francisco. I mean, I was a part of that whole scene. Of course, Laurel Canyon is in L.A. and up in the hills up above, above Malibu? I forget exactly where it is. I think it's up above Malibu, right? But at any rate, all kinds of Neil Young and Stephen Stills also, they had a place up there. Joni Mitchell, of course, Jim Morrison, and so many other groups. And many think that was kind of an MK Ultra like situation there going on. And I would have to agree that I think that's likely. I don't know for sure, but it looks like there's a lot to be. A lot going on there, especially when so many of them died at age 27.
The 27 Club. Yeah, if you look on the VinnyEastwoodShow.com and you look for Joe Atwill, you will be able to find the archive that I did with him, Rock Music and Hippie Culture Created by the CIA. And there's people in Laurel Canyon and a number of other bands and things like that were known to have been involved by the CIA. That's how the Grateful Dead got all their acid that they passed out to all of their things and what have you. They were trying to corrupt basically the youth at the time.
They're trying to disrupt families and break down the middle class and family units. But yes, this is exactly true, Vinny. I know for a fact that there are declassified government documents that talk about how the CIA experimented right in the city I was born in, Santa Fe, California, up there in over the Golden Gate Bridge from San Francisco, north of San Francisco in the suburbs there. And they experimented with that, and it's well known. And yeah, I agree totally. They Osley, it was one individual. I actually saw him once. I didn't meet him in person, but they said that's Osley, and I had some of that his product once. Well, more than once. My cousin got some tabs of it. It was unbelievably beautiful. It was actually one of the coolest things ever. That trip.
Yeah, and I remember a joke I made about the Grateful Dead. Apparently, and this is actually true, the Grateful Dead weren't always called the Grateful Dead. They actually changed their band name after one of their band members died in a car accident. Now, up until that point...
Yeah, I think I remember that story.
Yeah, and up until that point, they were still grateful to be alive.
Well, they were a local band to me. I met a lot of the people associated with them, uh, and some of their sound engineers. And one of their sound engineers loaned me part of their PA system once for my band on a New Year's Eve concert. And that was all the San Francisco Bay Area scene. And I probably saw the Grateful Dead played live a jillion times. And I would have to agree, Vinny, in my opinion, that was... this is the kind of thing Kathy O'Brien talks about, where they use some kind of venue, like a baseball team or a traveling rock or country band, and then distribute. That is one of the vectors of distributing whatever their poison of the day is.
Now, on New Zealand news, just to switch gears a little bit here.
Okay.
I found recent video by Carl Bromley, who's a pastor down here. He's been in the Truth Movement for a little while. He's come up with this video today that says that 36% of New Zealand's entire workforce are either applying to leave the country or are thinking about it.
Yeah.
All right? Imagine if 36% of the entire workforce. Recent study out of Massachusetts. 5 million.
Let me guess. The population of New Zealand, I'm going to guess it's like 15, 20 million?
Nah, 5 million.
5 million?
Yeah.
I was even high. I was afraid I was going to go too low. 5 million. Oh, man. And how close? I'm terrible on geography. It's your west or east of Australia?
East. About a 3-hour flight.
Pretty far east. Okay.
Yeah, we're isolated out here. And it's just a reflection, the statistic of how much people do not like living in New Zealand. I don't like living in New Zealand. I lived here my entire life, and I can't wait to get the hell out of here. It's just gone rampant. The woke culture, the media is so compromised. It's literally like living in a soft Soviet Russia. It's like
socialist,
like diet communism.
Diet communism,
like sort of a communism light.
Communism light.
I can't believe it's not communism.
This is what So I have some family members that voted for Biden, and I'm like, what is it about communism you don't understand? This is as far as I can tell, what they're trying to do in America is foist on us a version of communism based primarily on Marxism, but it's got some other ingredients. They always change things up depending on what their needs are. And of course, the global climate change and the transgender stuff. It's just ridiculous. So I grew up in California, so I moved to Arizona. And now, Vinny, I've moved to Texas. So I'm in Texas now. So I'm relatively well insulated. The population here is very well integrated among Hispanic and African Americans. And people just get along. It's like there's no issue. They're not falling into what is being portrayed as white supremacism, or if you're Caucasian. I mean, like right now, try to be a white guy and get an acting job. If you're not Tom Cruise or Martin Downey Jr. It's a tough road to hoe on that account. There's a real Marxist version of communism, which is really infected. One of the things about the 2020 election that really woke me up a lot, and even going back to 2018 and even going back to I kept finding out it was even worse than I thought, and I was already really cynical. It's not a pretty picture that I myself find here in America, and what you're describing here that you're facing there in New Zealand for being, slightly near somebody, and now you're being prosecuted.
Yeah, it's not the ideal situation, and a lot of people,
Yeah, if you had your druthers, it'd be a little different.
Well, I mean, New Zealand's very similar to the States in a lot of way. I mean, you guys have got fluoridated water. You guys got really powerful pharmaceutical companies. You guys got money launderers, drug dealers, corrupt government that gets paid off by the pharmaceutical companies. You know, these kind of things are all very, very similar. I think.
Well, it's a global syndicate, and no country is untouched. It's just it's where the money and resources are that they're really going to town.
Yeah, I mean, where do you go in a new world order to escape it, right? You can't leave the world. What, you got a rocket ship, you know?
I have an answer. I have an answer for that.
Go ahead.
And I just want to know if you want to guess what it is.
I don't know. Ritualistic suicide in an Aztec temple? I mean, just a great idea off the top of my head.
I'm not fatalistic, nor am I a nihilist. We have to raise our vibrations to counter this, and I believe we are. I'm seeing a lot of very positive signs happening, and it's my opinion right now. We're in for some rough waters. This is not easy, but it's like birthing pains. So it's going to be rough. So we got to do our best to kind of insulate and tether ourselves to, surviving this, because it's going to be some rough times ahead. But it's my opinion, Vinny, that we're moving into a golden age.
All right. Well, I mean, you can keep that opinion because I don't kind of share it. I mean,
No, that's our.
I mean, it's nice to have hope and what have you. I don't want to belittle you and what have you, but this whole vibrational frequency thing, it really does work, right? When you've got what was it in Washington D.C., murder capital of the world, 3,000 people went to a meditation retreat to bring the murder rate down by 30%, and the chief of police at the time was quoted as saying it would take as much as 6 feet of snow to reduce the murder rate by that much, but they had their meditation and the murder rate did reduce by that much. I remember, what was his name? Jonathan Gray, a great Christian archaeologist, went out to see the wreckage of Noah's Ark that they found out in the Ararat Ranges, but it was buried too deep in the thing, so they couldn't do any excavations. So they went back to Turkey and they did some prayers to God to help them with their excavation.
Let me guess. It rained a whole bunch and revealed it.
No. It had the Great Turkish Earthquake, and it pushed it.
Oh, okay.
And it pushed it 10 feet out of the ground so that they were able to work.
Okay, so I was right in that somehow forces beyond humans opened it up. Nature did. I just thought it would be erosion from rain, but it was an earthquake. So I was close. At least you can give me that. Well, no, I can tell you some things to support my supposition. And listen, I always say to people, listen, this is just my opinion, folks. I don't know. I'm nobody. Don't believe anything I say. But I have had on as a regular guest a doctor who has created a free energy device that is powering his house right now. Okay? He lets the local electric company power some of it because if he totally disconnect, they'll prosecute him, right? So he's got to keep his head down a little bit, but he can power a lot of stuff, so he's using way less electricity. I mean, this thing is putting out kilowatts. This is not like a microvolt Bedini type amplifier. These things are happening all over the world. We just had these ridiculous hearings in Congress. I mean, of course, they're prosecuting Trump. Every time something new about Hunter Biden comes out, they find out that, there's a new indictment against Trump for some ridiculousness. Well, we think Trump thought that he was going to overthrow the government, so that's good enough. That's good enough. Let's go with that. Hello. Come on, bring in all the news media talking heads, and we'll tell, we really got Trump now. It's just so ridiculous. But really positive things are happening. I also personally have had contact with some extraterrestrials, and so they're giving me information. This is a very slow, difficult process. It's very painful, but the dark stuff is being exposed. We've had hearings now in the House about all the financial dealings of Hunter Biden, and now we have Devin Archer coming out and saying, "Oh yeah, Biden was told Joe. I mean, all the stuff they accused Trump of is being exposed that the Biden crime family has done." And of course, we had the Bush crime family, we had the Clinton crime family. We had, it doesn't matter if Republicans or Democrats. I mean, they're mostly two wings of the same bird. But I do really feel that we're graduating from the need to be slaves.
Well, one can only hope. I mean, because it's best done sooner rather than later. Because when it's done later, you won't be able to resist enslavement. I think it was Dr. Rima Labo who was telling me about the plans that they've got, all the drone technology they have to force people off the land into their little tight apartment blocks, and the 500 new jabs that is in development right now that are going to be deployed by 2030 at least. 500 of them, 500 different kinds of them, right? Like they are going full tilt towards the genocide and enslavement of the entirety of mankind.
I guess the question is, in my opinion, I think we will successfully resist that and succeed in turning the tables on them. I think we're in the process of doing that. But it depends. You maybe your point of view that no, we're not going to be successful. The thing is, they've been trying to do this for freaking ever, and they haven't succeeded yet.
Well, no, because they've been setting it up forever. I remember one time I had Zeta Andrews on the show.
They had it set up for the 2000 big ass. All our computers are going to fail.
If I may, we have what we call rolling crises, right? And each crisis doesn't give them the whole thing. It just gives them a little bit. And so they do another crisis, and then they get another little bit. And it's the totalitarian tiptoe. So they've been winning the whole time because we haven't been pushing back. We've been stopping certain things here and there, but then they just push it again later on when we're not looking and then get it through. Like, I believe in New Zealand, for example, there was big marches against Helen Clark in the early 2000s when she tried to make vitamins and minerals a regulated substance type thing under the control of the pharmaceutical racket, and people resisted, and they didn't get it through. But 2 weeks ago at 4 o'clock in the morning, that bill was passed. And nobody knew about it until after the fact, right? So these people set things up and they take them underground and then they put them through anyway. And we don't have the ability to roll back that. So what we're talking about here is a full spectrum dominance system where they're dominating the education, the law, the medicine, the politics, the media, and so on and so forth. Now, what that means is any resistance that is mounted in any of those fields will have all of those other fields converge on them to destroy them. As we found out with Billy TK's political party here in New Zealand, when we got censored from Facebook, the entire political party Facebook page, an official political party in New Zealand, in the middle of an election, 3 weeks till election day, censored, right? And so it becomes very difficult to look at the concept of making a resistance, because constantly we are being surveilled. Even right now, my show is being listened to. I got visited by police and they told me that people are listening to my show and they might be offended, and they warned me. Right?
When did this happen?
This is like 2 days before my trial date on the 31st of July. So 29th of July, roughly.
So some people might be, you guys are definitely, it sounds like Canada, and the European Union and Britain aren't far behind.
Yeah. And how many people, I wonder, are trying to leave Canada right now? How many people are trying to leave Britain right now, Is this my friend's, my partner Rebecca's best friend Mariana had to go to Serbia, to escape this country. So it's like, it's terrible. She may or she may not come back. We don't know yet. So yeah, man, living in this country is just, if you are not a complete idiot, or if you're not completely sold out and being paid huge quantities of money to oppress people and destroy people's lives, and happen to be a psychopath so that you enjoy it and don't feel any guilt or remorse over it, unless you're one of those people, living in this country is like hell.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that, Vinny, and I'll tell you, I think it's actually worth. I don't think they're just psychopaths. I think even Satanists is not really telling the whole story. I think a lot of them are inculcated with demonic energy. They actually do worship Satan and open portals, and then of course there's the whole alien thing too. I don't know how into that you're in. Want to discuss, but there's a lot of levels at play here, I guess we'll just have to agree to disagree. I think we win this thing. I think we beat them, and I think we're beating them badly right now, and I think in just a few short years we'll be seeing advanced technology in terms of both energy. So your energy bills, which are one of your biggest bills, your rent's your biggest one, right? But right up there is energy and water, electricity and water, right? So you take out electricity all of a sudden and say it only cost 5% of what it used to cost. This is the kind of technology that exists, that can be deployed, and will be deployed, in my opinion, fairly soon. They just got to clean out some seriously dark stuff first, like we're seeing happening now as we speak. At least that's the view
can you give me
seeing.
some examples of that? Okay, because I was under the impression that we're still currently run by satanic pedophiles and things of that nature who've infiltrated virtually every sector of society. And you're telling me there's evidence that across the board, these people are just being wiped out and kicked out of these industries. I've seen no evidence to substantiate that. And if there is some, I'd like to hear about it, because that would be great to hear.
No, that's fine. That's fine. I'll defend my argument. First of all, as I said, I 100% agree with you. They've infiltrated. This is one of the things that when I watched the 2018 and the 2020 election in particular, what became clear to me is that the bad guys, whatever you want to call them, the deep state, I don't think that's near harsh enough a term, or the even say, I'm not just saying they're Satan worshipers. I'm saying they're really inculcated with seriously nasty energies. I don't know if you've ever been around anybody like that, but you know it when you experience it. What's that?
Pete Santilli.
Pete Santilli?
Oh, man.
Oh, yeah, I remember you told me. I don't remember the story, but I remember you talking about him. So there's nasty. It's just, it's nasty beyond belief. When you start thinking about what is it that they do to harvest adrenochrome? Oh, man, this has been, you don't even want to know, because you cannot unsee this. You cannot unknow just how horrible and how off the charts it is.
Can I step in here? Because this was something that I was thinking about earlier today. Is like each and every one of us in this movement is somebody who's got unresolved trauma. I think that's basically it, right? If you had to classify everybody in the current truth movement who's currently doing something about it, unresolved trauma is the only thing that they all have in common.
I would say it's beyond that. I would say virtually everybody is a trauma victim. When I go to a store to buy something and I see this poor guy working behind the counter, I know everybody's a trauma victim.
But the difference between all people and us is we're doing something about it. right? We're not sitting here allowing ourselves to continue to be traumatized. We actually don't like it, and we're trying to do something about it. And we're doing something about it in many multitudes of ways. Some people are on the front lines rescuing kidnapped children, for example. Some people are on the radio giving those people coverage. Some people are raising the vibration of humanity in their own way, right? Now, it doesn't mean that my contribution or your contribution can really be compared, or ineffectiveness, or whatever the hell. That's not what it's about. What it's about is everybody individually contributing towards the same goal in all of the myriad and different ways that people can contribute to anything. The reason why that's important is because, think for a moment, how many ways the New World Order screws you and or humanity on a daily basis? And the answer is a million ways. Therefore, what do you do about it? Well, there's a million things you can do about it. And we've all got millions of different skills, don't we?
Well, yeah. Okay, so I wasn't quite sure where you're going with that. I did want to finish answering the question if you want me to.
Go right ahead, bro. Sorry, I just had to get that point in there.
Yeah, no worries. No, I actually 100% agree. We're basically just trauma victims. I mean, especially the brighter you shine your light, the more you get knocked down, because they can't have that. And the infiltration of not just because we got a whole array of different challenges. We got people that are just plain not nice. But we also have dark energies infesting, particularly those that have the levers of control at their beck and call, and have decided on this new future where we have a digital dollar. And if Vinny Eastwood speaks out against the government, we can just turn them off. What are you going to do then? That's the world they want to create for us. But we've been fighting it since at least Babylon. This is not a new battle that we've suddenly been foisted upon us. I really do think we're at the precipice of emancipation. And I'll tell you why. I am a clairvoyant. I'm a psychic, and I can look at these things. I can look and listen. By the way, totally don't believe me. I'm not saying I'm right or anything like that. I'm just telling you my experience. That I've been pretty good record on this stuff, man. When I tell you guys what I'm seeing going on, it's been playing out exactly as I've been predicting for a long time now. I have a track record on the show telling you guys how this is going to play out. There's an alliance of positive extraterrestrials that have come here, and they clean the heck out of the dark aliens that have been running us, which are primarily the reptilians, but also the insectoids and the mantis, and some human forms like the Anunnaki. They're mostly gone. They're still messing with us, but we're actually quickly coming to a space where we have free will to decide how this is going to want to play out. They've been clearing out deep underground bases. We've been seeing these earthquakes and things like you described with Noah's Ark and stuff like that.
Is there any evidence that these deep underground military bases have actually been cleared out? Like somebody claimed this base in Arizona was cleared out. Did they have any photos, any footage, any direct testimony from anybody who worked there? Any way of any kind to substantiate it beyond I'm psychic and the aliens told me to. So I'm a journalist. I like to get clarification on that.
No, I completely actually welcome your inquiry on those realms, and I'll tell you. So first of all, there's been a lot of what they call earthquakes. Earthquakes have what are called S&P waves, and I forget exactly what they are, but they're like different longitudinal or a regular plain earthquake has both S&P type waves that they measure on the Richter scale and at all these different all over the world. There's been underground what they thought were earthquakes, but they had one of the waves, but not the other. So some of us then suspect, well, was that the good guys taking care of some business here? And so me being psychic, I look at it and go, oh yeah, that's exactly what happened. And again, don't believe me. I'm not telling you to believe me or anything like I'm right. But this is as best as I can sort it out with my remote viewing investigation. Okay, I'm pretty good at this stuff. There's also anecdotal evidence of people. James Gilliland is one. Do you know who James Gilliland is, by the way?
No.
He has a ranch up at the base of Mount Adams in the state of Washington. Mount Adams is a very large mountain up there, and it's like UFO Central. And he's been videotaping. He's had all kinds of high-level people. I mean, Dan Aykroyd and endless luminaries have been there, including high visibility people, including he had somebody come there that goes, I'm going to prove you're totally full of it, and brought all the $200,000 worth of high-tech equipment, and he found that the lights that they were filming there had no infrared quotient, meaning there was no heat. That is impossible as far as we understand modern physics. So right now up on that ranch Mount Adams, there's stuff happening all the time. This is happening all over the place. I myself have had up close and personal stuff with extraterrestrials. So I know from an experiential fact that they're real. So this opens then a doorway into this kind of deeper levels of our psychic field, which you are part of, Vinny. All of us are. We're all part of the collective consciousness, the morphogenetic field.
Yeah,
and
the morphic field, yeah.
Yeah, morphogenetic or morphic, whatever different names for it. Collective consciousness. So we can all tune into this, and that's what I try to do, and try to feel the vibe of the whole planet and what's going on right now. And it's quite in turmoil right now. We're really in a time unlike any other that certainly in my lifetime, but I think in at least since Atlantis or something like that, that we're coming into a sort of a graduation experience where we're just going to say, yeah, you know what? I'm not really down with being buggered up the backside. I'm trying to put that politely as I can. I think people, again, we're going to say, hey, no more. You know, all we got to do is stop forging our own chains. I mean, the message here is pretty simple. It's not complicated. Let's just stop forging our own chains and tell these people to go to hell. And we're going to operate on universal law and love and value each other.
Now, do you think that the level of consciousness that would elect Joe Biden is still there, or do you think there's been just a radical realignment in human consciousness, just in the United States, for example, that now people are totally awake and they see through Trump as well, and they're actually going to do things in their own communities and make things work and say to hell with the government? I'm personally, I don't think the consciousness level of the United States is anywhere near that. Like maybe even 1% of the people in the United States, I think, are probably at that level at the moment, saying that they've had enough and they want to do something about it. But we'll talk a bit more about this after the break.
Yeah, there are about 10 questions in there. I will try to answer them.
You're listening to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, and we'll be right back after this message. Transcending time and space, let us take you to the place inside your mind where thoughts divide and mysteries unwind. Join us every Monday evening right here on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern Time, and you will catch the Fenton Perspective with our great host, Lorian Fenton. Come listen in as she shares her amazing stories from the past to present, along with all of her guest secrets to the future. That's the Fenton Perspective every Monday evening right here from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern Time, only on Revolution Radio. Oh, and you don't need to expect us. We're already here.
I am Bill Johnson. Some consider my efforts to be an underground law school. I am not an attorney, and I do not give legal advice. I teach. That's lawful and legal. Consider yourself served. You are to appear Wednesday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern, Studio A. My forte? Foreclosure and contract law. Grab your legal pad and pen. Learn a broad spectrum of law spanning administrative, criminal, family, tort, and federal law. Fools and losers cling to old cases. I dissect and comment on the latest rulings that control the courts. Don't be a loser. And if you don't appear, you will be held in contempt.
The original machine had a base plate of prefamulated amulite, surmounted by a malleable logarithmic casing, in such a way that the two spurving bearings were in a direct line with a panometric fan. The lineup consisted simply of 6 hydrocoptic Marsal vanes, so fitted to the ambifacient lunar wane shaft that side fumbling was effectively prevented. The main winding was of the normal Lotus-O deltoid type, placed in panendermic semi-boloid slots of the stator, every 7th conductor being connected by a non-reversible Tremi pipe to the differential girdle spring on the up end of the gram meters.
Thank you for listening to Revolution Radio, taking the confusion out of transmutated lunar girdle springs for 4 years and running. Revolution Radio, the #1 listener-supported alternative media radio on the planet.
I will defend myself against their tyranny. Number 3 is my radio broadcast. I'm squarely in front of the public all the time, and they all know what's going on.
We are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on expanding its sphere of influence.
Hello, my name is John Wayne, and I do a broadcast here at freedomslips.com, revolution.radio, called The Unequivocal Truth, DEFCON 1.
Freedom and fear are at war.
And folks, I assure you, we are in Defense Condition 1, as we journey perilously through this paradigm that we currently reside in. And I ask that you join me every Saturday, 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for The Unequivocal Truth, DEFCON 1.
We shall never surrender.
I want to thank everybody for listening to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, the one place where information never sleeps. Revolution Radio.
All right, let's show them what we got now.
You're listening to KeithAZ Live with Keith Roberts at revolution.radio.
I bought a toothbrush, some toothpaste, a flannel for my face, pajamas, a hairbrush. It's just like
We are with the legendary Vinny Eastwood. who we're all praying for and want to support. Vinny, why don't you go ahead and tell everybody how they can support you right now with what you're facing?
Well, there's a number of ways that people can do it. Number one, we had a documentary that I made after the arrest called The Day Democracy Died, and there's a big blue The Day Democracy Died banner right there on the Vinny Eastwood Show.com. That video's on BitChute and Rumble and ODYSEE. You can watch it there. Additionally, you can go to Billy TK's website, riveroflies.co.nz, to have a look in the updates of his new documentary that is going to be coming out soon. We are almost up to 13,000 signatures at the moment on the change.org, Justice for Billy TK and Vinny Eastwood. So if you go to change.org and search for Vinny Eastwood, you should be able to see a sign and share that petition. So I very much hope people do that. And of course, I mean, basically we just need to be helped financially because of the lawyers' bills and things like that. Billy's been given like $97,000 in lawyers' fees so far.
Oh my God.
He paid about 65,000 of them off, and I've still got 6,000 of New Zealand dollars worth of stuff to pay off as well. So yeah, it's not too huge like in terms of, you know, relative to what debt some people have, but I was completely and utterly debt-free, paid off all my credit cards and everything like that, and then I get arrested, and now I'm back in this frickin' debt trap, which I'd been in for nearly... basically since I started being in talk radio and telling the truth instead of going out there and making money, because I couldn't do that.
Well, let's help Vinny out, everybody. We'll let you give that out again towards the end of the show. Listen, folks, I'm not taking calls right now. I know I told some people they could join in, but I'm having too much fun talking to Vinny. Vinny, you're a cool dude. I'm really enjoying talking to you. I'm really enjoying your questions. You know, you ask me direct questions. Why do you think this is going to be good? And this is a criticism I get a lot. Oh, you're Pollyannish. You're delusional. You know, you think you know, whatever. And so I do. I really appreciate responding to those queries. You know, and I'll tell you why. So the question from the top of the last hour was, what do I see about people here in America? This is a really good question. So I'm seeing a kind of a splitting of realities almost. It's like some people are going full on retard, like in Tropical Thunder. I don't know if you saw that Ben Stiller movie, and you know, on that never go full retard. Martin Downey Jr. character tells the Ben Stiller character. Yeah. But I'm also encountering more and more people. Remember, I've been in this since 1973 when I saw a couple of UFOs fly by, and I was only 13 years old. So I'm already like, wow, the government is lying to me. They're telling me this is all BS, but I directly experienced this. I saw these structured objects. I mean, they were not distant lights in the sky. I mean, these were straight up right in my backyards kind of stuff. Seriously close and clear, and you know, there it is. So I'm already distrusting the government at that very young age of adolescence, and from then on I've been talking about it to people forever, and I got a lot of derision. I got people telling me, oh yeah, you've met aliens, have you? I said, well, yeah, I did meet an alien, and he told me he doesn't believe in you. You know, so I got a little feisty back, but I would still be honest, and I say, yeah, these experiences I've had, and they're showing me a higher reality and a higher dimension of this. So I've been talking to people forever about JFK being assassinated. I mean, that was one of the first things that comes up, even as far back as 1973. I mean, you just go on and on, but pick a conspiracy subject. I'm really well versed in it.
I remember that Bill Hicks was talking about that, and people are like, "Bill, quick talk about the Kennedy assassinations a long time ago. Okay, could you just forget about it?" And he's like, "Okay, then don't bring up Jesus to me. You know, as long as we're talking about shelf life here. You know, Jesus died for your sins. Yeah, it was a long time ago. Let it go."
Yeah, you could kind of say JFK did too. He was one of the good old boys that had an epiphany and decided to actually do some good, and of course that he had to go. Who killed JFK? Do you think? Everybody. The CIA hated him. Israel hated him. The mob hated him. Go down to the Federal Reserve. I think it was the money that got him killed. Some people think he was going to release UFO information, but I think it was because he was issuing silverbacks, and they didn't want competition for the private central bank currency.
You ever notice when somebody tries to X out the private central banks, they get invaded or assassinated? You know, how does that work?
Gaddafi, another great example. They're trying to tell us Obama was such a great president. My father thinks Obama was a great president, and I'm going, the traitor? Are you kidding me? That destroyed Libya, which was no threat to. I mean, even as flimsy as Iraq and Afghanistan were as a threat, Libya was not even close to something you can construe as that. But they just go ahead and blow up the whole country, and they're still in shit. Libya is still messed up to this day. The repercussions from the assassination of JFK, from the 9/11, those repercussions, the Patriot Act is still with us, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The $2.2 trillion missing, Cynthia McKinney asked Donald Rumsfeld. The next day, the two towers get blowed up real good. Along
with the section of the Pentagon that was actually tasked with investigating where that 2.2 trillion went.
Yeah, there were two auditors. The only two people that died in that were the two freaking auditors that came in there to try to figure out where the 2.2 trillion. Oh, we just lost 2.2 trillion. Oh, wow. Oh, I guess that's okay. 2.2 trillion.
That's how much you need to run children in the military. The military is very, very high up in this old child trafficking and abuse thing. I think I had Douglas Dwayne Dietrich on the show a number of years ago. I think the archive's still on the VinnyEastwoodShow.com. We was talking about children who would go onto military bases and they'd come out with like 50 venereal diseases.
If they even survived.
Yeah.
No, it's they use them for adrenochrome and organ harvesting as well. What better than a 7-year-old's liver for some of these old decrepit psychotic, demon-infested.
But that's the thing. That's the thing.
Tyrants.
This knowledge that we have of stuff that does go on, we're not just new to this. Like, we didn't just discover this yesterday, all right? We've had some time to digest it, time to cope with it, right? I remember when I was first interviewing people who had been trafficked and what have you, I couldn't talk to anybody for a couple of months. You know, but now it's just water off a duck's back. It's like, yeah, I know that happens, and it's fine, you know, in terms of psychologically. But then again, it doesn't go away. That kind of, this is going on. I'm not stopping it, am I? I can't, because I don't know how.
Actually, by bringing consciousness, attention to it, is the first step. That film that was the silent, what's it called?
The Sound of Freedom.
The Sound of Freedom. I always think of the silence of freedom. The Sound of Freedom. That, whatever, you could look at some problems maybe in that, but still, it was only surface level. They didn't get deep, but people can't handle deep. But people's consciousness are shifting. So I want to finish answering your question about why I have positive viewpoints about our future. So I've been doing that, like I said, since 1973. I've been talking about these subjects. I can see an incredible sea change where I used to be mocked and ridiculed, and now people are going, yeah, I know. Yeah, I watched that Alex Jones show, or David Icke, or I watched Vinny Eastwood, or pick your truth teller, Jordan Maxwell, Michael Desarian, all these people that have been giving us a heads up. Hey, this is what's happening. So, here we are on the cusp of incredible change. We're either going to go into the abyss or we're going to survive better than ever. I mean, I don't think there's any other choice, Vinny. But I've seen a real sea change in people's attitudes over all these decades.
I mean, people are seeing the truth, and what the old saying is that a lot of people talk about the weather, but nobody really does anything about it. And I think
well, some people do.
Well, of course, and that's the same thing with the truth. A lot of people can hear the truth, but not everybody does something about it. I mean, I had people on my show, or people that I've talked to after the show, who had decided that they weren't going to commit suicide, after listening to an episode of mine or two. And people who started their own shows as a result of listening to my show. So, the fact of the matter is that regardless of how much progress you think you're making, you're still making progress. All right. The question is whether or not it's up to this, 51%. Right. That's why they call it Area 51.
Or we could say it more simply, enough to tip the scales, because according to our historians, it was only 5 to 7% of the colonists that won the Revolutionary War.
Well, there's a bit of an abstraction there. It was actually 3% actively involved on the streets 24 hours a day, fighting, what have you. And there was a further, I think, 12% of the population who supported them, gave them places to stay, gave them meals and stuff like that. So you're talking about 15% of people who are actively engaged in some way or some form.
So no matter how you slice it, no matter how you slice it, that's well under 51%. I think
that's right. However, the consciousness is what we're really talking about here. That's the reason why it's called Area 51, is because 51% of consciousness thinks one thing. Suddenly, that gets perceived as reality. So I've more than abreast with the American Revolution and the pamphleteers that went around sharing this information. They'd have pamphlets of information about freedom against the crown, so on and so forth. And these pamphlets, individual, nowadays people just see a pamphlet in their thing and they throw it away, they don't look at it. But back in the day, they would share that with like as much as 16 other people at the time. Right, so the public consciousness there was very, very different to modern America, because at the time there weren't really any public schools and things like that. People had to teach their own kids how to think, and generally they did that through the Bible. And the Bible tells people, slavery is bad, murder's bad, so on and so forth. And then they realized that they were slaves to murderers in the form of the crown. So at that point in time, it was 186 thought leaders in the United States. Millions and millions of people in the country at the time, but only 186 people who were actually doing all the thinking, who were getting all the messages out and so on and so forth. And I think that the truth movement nowadays, could we count up the top 200 truth broadcasting things and count them as kind of like the pamphleteers par excellence?
I could only think of 5 or 10.
Yeah, but they are out there, right? You or I might not know them, but guaranteed the listeners will know ones that we don't. And if we ask them to put down into the chat room all the different names of all these different truth tellers that they've got. So a network is basically being established. But what's problematic about that is that they're also being targeted, persecuted, shut down, and destroyed simultaneously as they're just being created. Now, while that's happening, you've got a whole bunch of new people who don't know what there is to lose yet, who don't know how hard it's going to be on them, who are starting up their shows and starting to get out there and do their thing, and they're starting to realize for the first time what we already know, is that this is not going to be a short fight. This is going to be something that's going to take the rest of your life away from you if it just doesn't take your life outright. I don't know how many people I've had on my show that are dead now. All right. So many of them. And I think it's because you have to work really, really hard and basically forego yourself and your self-interests for a significant period of time in order to acquire the knowledge that's actually dangerous and powerful enough to really wake people up. In so doing, you don't really take care of yourself as much as perhaps you should, and then you die for one reason or another, usually at your computer screen while you're writing your next email that's angry and going at a congressman who you don't like.
Okay, so that's one scenario. There's other scenarios here. I'm always been cautious when people say it's going to happen this way. I think I've been clear in this conversation that I don't know the answer. I'm only telling you as best as I can figure out. And I could be wrong. I was wrong before. It's not the first time. But as best as I can tell, things are really moving in a positive direction. People are waking up. There's a whole nother component to this that we haven't touched on. And so let me ask you this, Vinny. Let me ask you a question, sir. Do you feel that there's a higher reality other than just purely the mundane physical? Do you feel that there's like a whole higher part to yourself, that you're more than just your body? This is a question, sir.
Well, yeah, of course. There's mind, body, and spirit. The spirit's the ethereal that ties into the morphic field, and we're all part of a holographic, fractal, projected reality that's being manifested by collective consciousness experiencing itself subjectively. It's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, I have to ask that question to make sure that we're on the same ground when we communicate. There is the possibility of having higher consciousness connections. Have you connected with any higher beings, like, for instance, your own spirit guides, or also your higher self or angelic beings?
I don't know. Maybe I access my higher self after I smoke weed, and that's how I stay in that morphic field, as it were. All my best rants and all my best work and all my best songs and everything like that come when I'm under the influence of that kind of thing, and that's because the Shiva, the ancient Indian god, one time sat underneath a cannabis plant and smoked it, and then all of a sudden this religion sprang up where this became a sacrament of religious worship, and that's basically the way in which I imbibe it in order to stay in contact with my higher self, quite literally and figuratively.
Okay, that's cool. I often will recommend to everybody, and this is what I'll do on my show, connect with your own spiritual guides. And the typical thing I get, I can't hear my spiritual guides. I mean, I don't know. Yes, you can. The thing is, you got to shut up. You have to actually stop talking and listen. There is wonderful energies available to us. And of course, smoking some weed and doing some music, you're connecting with an aspect of yourself that is just absolutely beautiful beyond belief. And it's your inner child. When you're performing and doing that stuff, you're connecting. Part of what's happening is your connection, but you're also connecting with, you're opening up your crown chakra and bringing in that cosmic energy and translating that into sonic singing sound waves.
It's an embedded carrier wave. Ostensibly, you put feelings and emotions, you embed them on an audio carrier signal, and then when people hear it, it gets decoded by their brain as emotions and feelings again.
So anyway, we've been to go back to. I want to go back to your earlier question before we hit the top of the hour break, and so again, I mentioned that when I talk to people now, it's a totally different thing than even 1 decade ago, let alone 2 or 3. People are far more awake to what's going on. If I tell them the Federal Reserve is a private central bank, yeah, I know, and they're stealing from us. This is freaking a basic fact that a lot of people, nobody used to know that. Nobody did. I was like the first guy on the block going, hey, they're stealing from us. They're stealing our sweat equity, our creative endeavors, and it's going into their pocket, and they're living lives of debauchery on private islands with who knows what perversions they got going on here. So we got to make this place better. So the collective consciousness, going back to the morphogenic, or if you want to call it the morphic field, whatever, the collective consciousness, the sum total of our imagination. Our imagination creates the future. They have this is why the mainstream narrative is so important to them. Why every single TV show, I don't care what news channel you flip between CNN, I don't know what you have in New Zealand there, but they got the same 3 top stories with the same 3 talking points, each one of them, the same crap. They've got to have they require each of us to imagine our own enslavement. If we break out of that and imagine a future where we have moved into a field effect of manifesting our heart's desires. How good does that sound, right? Manifesting your heart's desires. This is going to work really good. And we are in the process of this because the Earth herself is a conscious being, and she is moving up the vibrational ladder. So you're either going along for the ride, you either got tickets on the train, or you're going to have to reincarnate in the same crap that we're dealing with right now. Make a choice there, and people have already. I don't think anybody is on the fence anymore. I think people have either made a choice to move into a more positive reality, or to reincarnate in the same kind of 3D polarity dimension. So I'm excited, man. These are fantastically interesting times. We've seen nothing like this. You couldn't write a science fiction book or a screenplay and take it to Hollywood and say, oh yeah, in 2023, this is how it's going to be. Even 10 years ago, they would have laughed you off this. That's never going to happen. That's ridiculous. But here it is. Here we are. What are we going to do about it? Well, vibrate, meditate, love, do your best. Do your best to just support each other, and know that we richly deserve a paradise. And what are we each individually going to do to assist in manifesting this? Well, the first step is to imagine that we can. So when everybody says, oh, well, no, this is the way it is, I say, I don't know about that. I don't know if that's the way it is. What I imagine is that we can kind of skip some of those steps. Maybe we will, maybe we won't. I don't know. We're sure in the thick of it right now. Vinny, I think we're in the 3rd act of a play. You have 3 acts: the introduction, the development, and then the conflict portion. I think we're late in the 3rd act.
Well, it says in the last act of the film, that's when all the things that were set up previous come to the play, right?
Yeah, hit the fan.
The rebel fleet comes in, or whatever the savior kind of the story really happens to be. They're the ones who endure all this stuff, right? It's the downtrodden hero who wouldn't give up. And then in the last moments, when he's either A, about to fail, or B, about to give up, that's when the thing that he's been working for his entire life, or for the course of the film, or whatever it is, suddenly shows up to save the day. Now, could we be in that scenario? I'm totally open to the possibility. And I agree with the assessment that a lot more people are more aware of the conspiracies nowadays. And I think this is because of the prevalence of technology, for one, and the Barbara Streisand effect for two. But
also the work that people like yourself have done.
Well, of course, but we couldn't have done that without the technology, you see. Back in the day, they had books and things of that nature coming out, but people would actually have to leave their home, go to a library, hope that that library actually had that book, have heard about that book somehow, you see. Whereas nowadays, you can just have a thought in your head, ding, 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 type it into a search engine, and boom, you've got information coming out your ear holes, right? And so it's so much easier now. I remember when Jordan Maxwell and G. Edward Griffin were talking to me about how hard it was back in the day doing the raw research because there was no internet. And then how hard it was simultaneously getting that research out there. So there was a golden area there between 9/11 and in 2001 and 2019, a golden era where you could pretty much talk about anything online and not get censored and not get shadow banned and stuff like that. The apparatus for the censorship of the internet didn't exist then, but it sure as hell exists now. So there's a possibility that it's like those two scales that come up and they meet at some point and then they stop dropping off, right? Like a population dip or something of that nature. There might be a freedom and information dip that's starting to trend now because of the prevalence of persecution against those people like myself who are putting out the information and the simultaneous suppression of just that information itself. And then, of course, you had this massive cult that just came out of nowhere, advertised all over the television, get this, don't go there, you know. And now so many people are actually part of that cult. And even the ones who've woken up to how dangerous that cult is and what it can do to their health, a lot of them, it's already too late. They've already got myocarditis or pericarditis or Bell's palsy or something
or
like that.
Or they're already dead.
You know, and that'd be the easy way out because a lot of people are still alive, having to live with all of these conditions that they've been plagued with ever since they tried to escape the plague, ironically, right? So are we looking at the shutting down of mankind's consciousness, or are we looking at the explosion of it? I think the explosion already happened and now we're in the shutdown phase. But at the same time, I do see a lot of activity, right? A lot of activity. A lot of people are actually trying to do something about it, whether or not they even know what they're doing. This is what was really good about it as far as I was concerned, is that most of the alternative media that has sprung up in New Zealand have never bothered to talk to me, never bothered to interview me, have never even so much as messaged me. The bulk of the new alternative media that has come out in New Zealand, and I was the only alternative media in New Zealand for over a decade, and these people have never even heard of me. And they're now coming out, telling the truth, doing their own things, and are way more successful at it than I could ever hope to be. Okay? And so there is encouraging signs out there. Yes, I agree. I'm just not 100% sure if it's as encouraging enough yet, or if it's a build up to a wave, or has it already crested and it's now going down, down, down? Because what Stefan Versteppen was telling me, Urban Guerrilla Warfare was his book, is that the New World Order is going to win. However, that doesn't mean that we're all going to die. If we are all smart and we're all organized and things of that nature, we can actually ride this out. And the reason why that is, the reason why you won't have 1,000 years of darkness and things of that nature, is because the people in power already are so crazy and so psycho that if they actually ever did have this power and control that they so desired, they would suddenly be without enemies. They would suddenly be without rivals. And so the only person that they could hurt and kill and destroy would be each other, because they'd become suspicious of each other, because this is what they do. Psychopaths, whenever there's a situation of order, they come and they create chaos. If they've already ordered the entire society the way that they wanted, the only people that could really create chaos is themselves, and they'll do it within their own camp. So Stefan thinks that, if I may just finish this point, what Stefan thinks is going to happen is that a New World Order system is going to come about, all right? But there'll be a lot of people who ain't part of it that will survive a period of time, approximately 7 years he thinks that the system can last for. And then all those people in power and control are going to start killing each other. And then the system's going to collapse, and then all of those of us who've survived with our brains and testicles intact are going to crawl back out from under our rocks that we've been hiding under, tell everybody we told them so, and then start running society the way we know it should have been run all along, that nobody was listening to us because they were too afraid of being persecuted.
I think one of the biggest questions about what we're facing right now is how many people are not going to make it. The COVID vaccines, and we can say that on this show. We're not on YouTube or anything where we have to worry about mincing our words.
Unfortunately, I am, so I'm going to have to delete this off of YouTube after we're done. But anyway, thank you very much.
Oh, well, if you told me you were putting that on YouTube, I would have been more circumspect.
Oh, well, it's too late now. So it'll be on BitChute and Odyssey and Rumble.
I haven't really said anything yet.
Yeah.
I don't know, whatever, or delete it up till then. I don't care. I honestly
Finish your point. Let's not worry about the censorship right now.
Okay, so
otherwise we're self-censoring, and that's the worst crime of all.
The point is that I think there'll be a lot of casualties. Some people have different ideas about. Some people think it's going to be like a sizable percentage of the population. I think at most 10, 15, 20%, maybe, due to the, since you've already told me you've got to delete this, the COVID stuff is one of the things. That was a kill shot. So there's going to be a lot of casualties along those lines, and already have been. Sinead O'Connor just died at only 56 a couple days ago. What are you dying at 56 for? Of course it could have been breast cancer or something like that. We don't know any of the details. At least I haven't seen any talk about that. But the point is, there's a lot of reason why people are kind of black-pilled. And they think, oh, it's over. There's no reason to try. The dark forces are going to win. I give up. I'll just try to get my own, crap. I'll try to insulate myself. I'll try to not be noticed. I'll try to keep my head down and not speak up, whatever. I'm of a very different bent. I say we're freaking winning big time. We are kicking their ass. A very good example is what's been happening in Ukraine. So Ukraine has been a source of incredible corruption, adrenochrome harvesting, gun running, money laundering, you name it, drug trafficking, heroin, whatever. These freaking guys. And of course, with all the money that I think our country alone, America, has spent officially, I think it's something like $130 billion. It's probably way more than that. But all these generals suddenly own very big, rich, giant mansions. Where's that money really going? Is it going to the... No, they've lost the war. Russia came in because I think Putin, like Trump, is a nationalist populist. This is probably another point you'll really disagree with me, Vinny. That's okay. It's just my opinion. I don't know the right answer. I'm not telling you I'm right and you're wrong. I'm just telling you as best as I can figure out on this. And the first thing he did, he went into the bioweapons labs that were ringing the border of Russia, took those out, blowing up underground bases, taking out, the stuff. And Ukraine has lost. The only reason there's even a fight going is because the West has been providing them every resource it can, both not just in armaments and various other supply lines, even food and, what all the logistics that it takes to run an army, but also mercenaries up the wazoo. And they're still getting their ass kicked because Russia has air superiority. There's no way Ukraine can win. And they're taking out a bunch of the Azov battalion is all freaking Nazis with Nazi tattoos and Nazi flags. What the hell's really going on? Well, it's the good guys winning, is my opinion on this. More complex than that. I don't want to oversimplify it because there's a lot of gray areas here. But this is one of the last vestiges where the deep state, the dark cabal, can run all their games. And that one's gone too. Now, what else is happening? The BRICS is coming up with not a gold-backed currency, but a gold deposits and other assets, including grain and oil and other precious metals, whatever the hell, but the BRICS-backed country, our dollar is no longer going to be the reserve currency. What the hell is that going to do to the U.S.? Man, the private reserve is toast. We're going to have to mirror that. The only way the U.S. is going to survive is to go to an asset-backed private issue. The private central banks tell the all those fat bankers that have been engineering wars and depressions and booms forever so that they can buy up assets on pennies on the dollar. They're all toast, man. They're done. People are figuring it out. So I don't know. That's just kind of where I'm at, Vinny. Sorry that was so long. Sorry about that. I mean, you still there?
Yeah. I just think about it like, when you're trying to accomplish something, like taking a leak, for example, there's something that tells you on an instinctual level, man, I think I need to go take a leak. And it depends how long you ignore it for, right? How long the pain gets. Because it's like Ayn Rand said, you can ignore reality, but you cannot ignore the consequences of ignoring reality. And I think there's a possibility that right now the vast majority of the population who've been ignoring reality this whole time are starting to feel that pain, that figurative pain in their kidneys. Like, man, I badly need to take a wiki leak. This is starting to hurt. And that will motivate them.
Let me just quickly paraphrase that. You can ignore reality, but you can't escape it.
Yeah. And on that note, I do actually need to take a wiki leak, so I'll be right back after I finish this point. Basically, what you operate under, or at least what I try to operate under, and sometimes I ignore it and I get punished for it, is what I call the ping. Okay? Now, you'll be sitting in your lounge or something like that, and you'll think to yourself, man, that cupboard in my room really needs to be cleaned out. And you'll wait 5 seconds, and then you won't clean out the cupboard. That was the ping telling you that you had to clean that cupboard right here, right now, because you were going to get a present or a gift or something like that after the fact if you obeyed it. All right? That's how the ping works. Sometimes the ping tells you don't do stuff. Don't turn around and talk to those guys. And then you do, and you get punched in the face. So that's basically how the world really structures its reality, I think, is that you have these instincts, I call the ping, and it tells you to do things, tells you not to do things, and the more you ignore it, the worse your life gets and the less rewards you get. So whatever it is you feel like doing at that particular moment, if it's not hurting anybody or damaging anybody's property, I say go right ahead and do it right now before that 5 seconds passes, because otherwise the motivation to do it will be gone as well. So wouldn't that be wonderful if nobody had a plan in this entire world and people were just bumping around and going, oh man, I didn't know why I was supposed to be here, but now I met you and now we're doing this, and yeah bro, it's awesome.
All right. So
with that being said, I'm going to go take a wiki leak right now, and I'll leave you with the capable hands of Keith, ladies and gentlemen, and I'll be right back in just a flush.
All right, because I got to respond to that. Okay, but I have a movie review for everybody, so this is the perfect time for this. As it turns out, there's a great Cary Grant movie that is now available for free on YouTube. Believe me, I know. I've been trying to watch this movie for years, and I watched like altered versions of it or bits and pieces. But the whole freaking movie's available on YouTube. It's starring Cary Grant, and it's called Father Goose. And it's a World War II movie in the South Pacific, based in the South Pacific. And it's just, I think Cary Grant, many of you may not remember him, but he was one of those classic Hollywood actors of the 40s and 50s and even into the 60s when I think this one was made, where he was getting a little older. But I think his best work was his comedic work. It's just a silly, funny movie, and really heartwarming too. Really fun stuff. So go ahead and see if you can find it on it. I just watched it the other night on YouTube. It could already be gone. I mean, this is how fast these things can come and go, and you got to take advantage of them while you can. This is a big screen, movie way back when, and then I originally saw it on television, and it's just fun. You back with us there, my friend? I think he's still hooking up his headset. Testing. Vinny, you with us? I think he's almost ready. He's still
I'm back.
in. There you go. I forgot what I was going to respond to something you said, but I forgot what it was. It still sounds like downer stuff. You generally have kind of a downer viewpoint. You think the bad forces are going to win? Is that where you're coming from?
Well, yeah. I mean, what's his name? The Hound got asked in Game of Thrones why he's so sour and miserable about everything, and he replies, "Experience."
Yeah, well, I can tell you I have a great deal about its cynicism. One of the things I did mention, I talked about how I see people waking up way more, but I also see people getting stupider. It's kind of this dichotomy where some things are going up and some things are going down fast, and I see people steal from each other and treat each other poorly in my own personal sphere of life. I'm not going to say any of the details, but it's really disheartening. And so I can really, respect having kind of a down view on, especially if you go to Walmart and see the zombies, it's but again, I'll tell you, I have had, actually continue to have direct contact with an extraterrestrial being, a Lyrian. She flew by in a spaceship, Vinny. I mean, I was in our backyard of our neighbor's house. We were having a New Year's Eve party. This was back in, 2008, 2011, something like that. Over 10 years ago, anyway. And so this incredible object flies by, and it looks like a freaking emerald. And it's just over this low mound right across from me. I mean, it's not even a quarter mile away. And it's bright and clear, and the color is shining. It's like, what the heck is that? This is like nothing. I mean, I've seen UFOs before. I told you about the ones I saw when I was 13 and stuff, but nothing like this close. And so this being proceeds to start communicating with me telepathically, which was no easy feat for me to even comprehend what was going on. I was, what the heck is, I have no idea. It was so outside, and I've already seen UFOs and been into UFOs, and this is already blowing my mind. And so this being is telling me about the cosmological history of Earth and the fight we're in right now. So at least, I don't expect you to believe me, Vinny. I'm not trying to convince you. I know it's crazy stuff. It's crazy talk, but this being is intense. and it's giving me communication about what they're kind of doing. So what they're basically doing is removing the intrusion of these other extraterrestrial forces. They're not going to save us. And by the way, you mentioned this earlier. I don't believe in a savior. I don't believe Christ is coming back, or Elvis is going to show up, or Trump is going to save us. I think it's up to us to fix this. You and me, we got to get busy. We got to see what we can do to kind of regain, fight back against this freedom. The pendulum is swinging, as always has through history. We've seen the pendulum swing between authoritarianism and freedom. The founding of America is proof of that, and that now we're in the thick of it. And I really think we're at the precipice. But I think the outcome is already decided, and we're going to have a happy future. And Vinny, I hope to talk to you maybe as soon as not that long and say, see, I told you, man, it's going to be good. But we'll just have to wait and see who's correct on this.
Well, it's like I always say, the beauty of cynicism is that you're correct 90% of the time. And the other 10% of the time, you're very pleasantly surprised, so...
Yeah.
I do savor those moments of pleasant surprise, rare though they may be, because nobody wants to be right all the time. All right? And that was the thing that I've discovered about myself that I don't think a lot of people really share. I love being proven wrong because it means that I can continue to be correct because I've been corrected. You know what I'm saying? And so this is kind of like an ethereal argument, and we don't really have any solid evidence and facts and things like that, but we do understand the broad strokes that have at least some substance to them. So there's some weight to the possibility that, things are actually going to work out after they get a hell of a lot worse.
I think they are going to get worse in the short term. And I don't know what kind of time frame it's going to take for my predictions to come true. But I really hope you and I will be able to go on the air and say, hey, remember when we were talking about that, man? We both had good points, and here's how it turned out. Turns out we were both wrong on lots of stuff. Who knows? I mean,
I'm just... I'm waiting on the fake staged alien invasion where they go, oh my goodness, there's an alien threat out. We need a new world order to fight the alien bad guys.
Project Bluebeam. I don't know if you saw did you see the hearings here in our house last week with the two whistleblowers, right? And everybody's like, oh, we've only known this since 1947. Those of us that have been paying attention like myself since 1973, I said, oh yeah, they're real, and they're lying to us. And then 26 years ago, Lieutenant Jerome Corso came out with a book, The Day After Roswell, where he described everything these jokers were. They're probably CIA handled. This is my opinion about this, and I think you're correct, Vinny, that they are trying to gin up a Project Bluebeam, but I don't think it's going to work. I think people are going to be like, yeah, not so much.
I mean, maybe the people who took the jabs and things like that might be like, oh, of course, oh my God, I got to obey the government again.
Well, and of course we do have way back at, what was it, 1934, was it? 44? I forget the year it was, when Orson Welles did a radio broadcast, and of course the beginning of it, he said, this is a fictional broadcast, but then he played the rest of it as if it was really happening, and people freaked out, some even committing suicide. The World of Worlds, Orson Welles broadcast. So there's legitimate reason to think a lot of people will fall for that. But I'll tell you what, they would still be doing the COVID vaccines, you'd still be required to wear a mask, which I didn't do, by the way. Philip Corso, not Jerome. I'm sorry. Thank you, Flippy. Colonel Philip Corso. I have such good listeners in the chat room. Thank you very much. Colonel Philip Corso had an introduction by Strom Thurmond, who then, when he figured out what the book was about, said, "No, actually, no." But
that's another point to raise as well, is that it's very, very good to see good listeners. All right, listening is such a lost art form, I think. And people like you and I are the only ones in the world that still have people who are good listeners, who listen to us, you know? Like that's what it feels like sometimes, is like the vast majority of people are very ignorant. They don't pay attention. They're always wasting their time debating this issue or the other, which are usually just surface and meaningless and pointless issues. But that's what I dig about my audience, and is they actually really listen and they really help me a lot of the time. So thank you, each and every single one of you, because you're very, very rare. And as we all know, that which is rare is extremely valuable.
Music is a tremendous skill to develop your listening abilities. Vinny, sing a line from, do you have like a big chorus line or something from one of your songs you want to sing for us?
Yeah, I mean, could do. It's our song, Happy Birthday. I'm kind of like making a little Jean Alouette one out of it, and it just goes, "Happy birthday, I hope it was the best day of your life for another year. I hope you will remember the days when you were young and free and nothing stood in your way." Hey!
All right. Hey, listen, I want you to tell everybody where to find you before we go, but we've still got a few minutes. Any last thoughts you want to close the show out with? And then let's promote how people can support you.
All right. Well, final closing points is that there's a lot of people in the truth movement who are very, very worried, and they're kind of like wondering what the hell the point is about, and all of this other kind of stuff. And I get that. I've been there. And in fact, maybe in some cases I'm still there, right? Now, the problem is that if you stop fighting for humanity, you have the feeling that there's nobody else to do it, right? Then humanity is just going to fall on its ass because you took a day off. And that's not the case. What's really important, I think, just in general, for people who are in this movement or want to be part of this movement, is to realize that you're not a robot. You can't work 24 hours a day as long as you're plugged in. You understand? You have physical, spiritual, and emotional needs, and these topics will drain every part of your essence if you allow them to. Being conscious of what you are doing and the consequences on your mind, on your heart, on your soul, and taking countermeasures against them, I think is very much important. And for everybody, it will be different, but the old saying reigns true, that if you can't take care of yourself, you can't take care of business. So take care of yourselves, ladies and gentlemen, and then, once you're okay, then you can start helping humanity. Until then, you're going to be a mess, and you're going to be really stressed out, and that's going to mess people up and stress them out. What comes from within goes without and goes back within again. It's a cycle. It's a circle. You've got to stop it. You've got to break it. You've got to break those chains. And you've got to stop living comfortably. And you need to stop fearing the consequences of doing the right thing.
Don't be afraid. This is one of the strongest messages I can say.
Right, and
don't be afraid. Oh, go ahead.
Go to thevinnieeastwoodshow.com to give me money, ladies and gentlemen. There's a donate button and all of that kind of good stuff there. And thank you so much, Keith, for having me on. And thank you to all your listeners as well, and all of mine too in the chat room. Thank you, guys.
Our good friend Vinny's in peril. Help him out. Vinny, come on soon again, my friend. Hey, great show, Vinny. I really enjoyed that.